Hello everybody, I am Cassidy, I am the Hippie Catholic. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please subscribe to be part of the conversation. This is an extremely informal video. It's about my experiences with cannabis. This video is a story time about a particular instance where I used edible cannabis. Many of you are aware that I support the legalization of recreational cannabis. If you'd like to watch more like academic content or more like theological, philosophical arguments for if cannabis usage is moral, I made a video about that a few months ago. I can put that in the description box below for you guys to check out. Yeah, that's kind of a more formal, planned video. This video is more of a story time video, so I hope that you all like it. I kind of want to be honest with you. I want to be candid with you guys. I am by no means the expert in everything. I'm by no means perfect all the time. Sometimes when you try new experiences, sometimes you just get things wrong. Every experienced cannabis user that I have met has had a bad experience with edible cannabis, at least once in their experience of using cannabis. I guess I wanted to make this video because when I was coming down from my bad trip, it really helped me to watch other YouTubers make story times about their experiences with edibles. For those of you who don't know, edible cannabis is cannabis that you ingest. A lot of scientific literature suggests that edible cannabis is actually healthier for you than inhaling cannabis smoke. A lot more, I guess, of the scary bad trips come from using edibles. The more chill highs are from inhaling the smoke. And I think that it all has to do with the dosage. It all has to do with like how much you're actually using. And this is another reason why I really support cannabis being federally legalized, because since it's not federally legalized, it's legal in my state. I'm in Chicago, so it's legal in my state. Like, I only started using cannabis after it became legalized. Just disclaimer. There's kind of no federal consensus on like what the dosages for like certain people are supposed to be. Like, there's no consensus for that. Like it's like by like a state-by-state basis. That's a problem, because I used the recommended dose for like newbies and it was still way too much. My advice to people who for one are using cannabis in a state where it's legal or a country that it's legal, if you're using cannabis recreationally, and particularly if you're using edible cannabis, I would take whatever the like newbie amount is and like cut it in half. Or better yet, cut it in a fourth. You'd rather have a weak high than experience what I experienced, trust me. So without further ado, I guess I will get into the story time that you all came here for. So it kind of started out as like a normal Saturday night. I was with one of my really great friends, and she brought over a chocolate bar that she had bought from a dispensary. And this chocolate bar had like a little like guide with it that was like, oh, this is how much like you should take if you're a newbie. This is how much you should take if you're experienced. Like, it had like this chart, and even on the chocolate itself, it had like this square is 5 ounces, this square is, you know, 10 ounces. So I thought, I'm like, okay, we're being responsible. This is from a dispensary. We know what we're getting. So I took 10 ounces. And it was like 10 gram. It was either like, I don't think it was ounces. If I said ounces, I apologize. It was not ounces. We would not be here if it was ounces. I took 10. 10 was too much for me. I would say 10 is too much for anybody who's new to it after my experience. Because 7 grams is about how much a full joint would be, like if you had a full joint just to yourself. And at that point, I had just been like taking a few puffs of, I would maybe like use like half a joint. So this was way too much cannabis for me, okay? I knew that it was a slow burning high. I knew that it would come kind of out of nowhere because it's from the digestive system, not from your lungs. So I kind of was just sitting on my bed, kind of just waiting for it to come. My best friend and I, we were just kind of like reading some funny stories that I had written back when I was like in middle school. 13-year-old fan fiction, that's a good thing to read, you know, when you're about to get really high. So my apartment is like really high up, okay? I was leaning up against the window of my apartment and I suddenly felt like I was falling. like, because I leaned back a little bit into the window, and I thought, I like felt like I was legit falling. So I like sat up, and then all of a sudden, like, I just felt like I had electricity like going through my body. I could even feel it like in my teeth, in like my jaw, and like everything. I was like, what is going on? I was terrified because it like came out of nowhere. And it's like, I knew that like I was gonna get high, but I didn't think that was going to happen. Like, I've been high before. I've used like cannabis before, and it was like a good experience. But I had never used edible cannabis like this before. So I'm like, what is going on? I go and I like go get some water because I'm just like freaking out. Like, thank God I was not by myself, because I almost did this by myself. I would be like completely, I don't even know what would happen. My best friend was holding my hands, and she was just like, you are having a really bad panic attack. It does this if you take too much of it. We clearly have given you too much. And I was just terrified. I was just like, all I could just keep like repeating, like, something's wrong, like something's wrong. Like, it's what I kept like repeating over and over and over again, because I just felt like this like impending sense of doom. It was like honestly the worst panic attack I've ever had in my life. Like, it was so intense, it was so bodily, and it was like every thought I had was like all consuming. I have OCD. The thing is, when people have told me that they've had bad edible experiences, they had like told me that they were kind of having almost like OCD like symptoms with like intrusive thoughts and everything, and that's what I would always tell them, like, oh, that's like what an OCD episode was like. Sis, I have OCD, okay? I have actual OCD, like, outside of, you know, using edibles. So for me, it was like a whole other level. My OCD was like all encompassing, because like the only thing that's like kind of like a blessing with OCD is that like it's not like a panic disorder, where like panic disorders are like extremely bodily. OCD is almost always mental. Like, it's very like, you know, it's rushing thoughts, you know, it's like, and yeah, like you can have like some like bodily symptoms of anxiety, but like it's not like the way like PTSD or like a panic disorder would be. That is not the case with edibles. My OCD was like, whew, like my OCD brain was like, what have you done to us, child? And I was just like, I was like praying the rosary like on my fingers. I was going and like praying the rosary, and I'm just like, apparently like I thought I was just like praying the rosary in my head, but like I guess I was saying it out loud. It was terrifying. It was getting worse and worse and worse. I was just getting more and more like sucked into like a vortex. And the thing is, when you have OCD, like your subconscious is always an extremely dark place. You're always trying to like suppress and manage a subconscious that is extremely dark. And like even when we're like doing something that we love like a lot, like our OCD will like literally like make us think of something terrible. Like, and we're just trying to have like a fruit snack or just trying to like have a good time. So it was just so much more intense with the edible cannabis. I guess like you guys are here for the title, that it's like what my bad trip taught me about God. Disclaimer, I guess, this experience, I didn't have like a supernatural experience. I didn't talk to God. I didn't have like an experience of feeling close to saints or angels or anything. It was literally just me in my subconscious mind. And I feel like that was what it was supposed to be, if that makes sense. Not every mystical experience has to be like a spiritual experience. Like, this was an extremely embodied experience, because all I wanted to do was just stay in my body and just like be here and be grounded. Like, I remember I started putting a face mask on. Like, I was smearing like this mask on my face, because just the sensation of the mask was like kind of bringing me back to like feeling embodied and feeling grounded. I also started eating a bunch of King's Hawaiian rolls because I read that like the feeling of just chewing and like chewing really slowly helps with really bad panic attacks. I thought that like also eating food would maybe like dilute the cannabis maybe. That wasn't working at this point. I was terrified. I have never felt fear like this. I was just in like this sanctum of fear. It was horrible. And I guess like I wanted to share like this experience with you because I want to be honest about what using cannabis is. I want you to have an informed conscience that's informed by church teaching, science, as well as personal experience and testimony as well. You know, that includes the good experiences and the bad experiences. I've had experiences with cannabis where it's just felt like, you know, a really, really nice time, like I'm just floating on a cloud. You know, I've had really, really good experiences with cannabis where it's just really, really chill, really laid back, like nothing eventful happened. Like I've literally said before that, like, oh, I've used cannabis before and it's literally been boring. And then there's experiences that are like this that just are like, you know, it was awful. My best friend like did not know what to do. She was trying to help me, which her being there and not leaving me alone was really the best thing she could have done. I kind of had like enough logic in my mind that I was like, okay, like when you ingest something bad, the only way you get it up is just blah. I was like, I know what I have to do. I had to throw up. I have a very sensitive stomach and I'm just like, I do not want to throw up, but this is the only way to fix this. It felt like 4 hours, but I know it was really like an hour. Like, this is how the hippie Catholic dies, like having a bad trip on an edible, leaning over a toilet with her brown scapular on. My mind was just catastrophizing like a ton. Meanwhile, my best friend was just sitting there high off her butt because she had taken an edible as well, but she had more experience with it, so she was just having like a normal high. Then it was like after I got done, I got up and I'm just like, I'm gonna take a bath. Because I don't know, I thought that like being in water might relax me and also like kind of like ground me in my senses. I went and I got in my bathtub. I thought this was all in my head. I didn't know I was saying this stuff out loud. But I was like splashing around in my bathtub because now I was having a good experience because I think that me throwing up like balanced out the dose. So now I was having a good experience with it. In the bathtub, I guess I was splashing around and saying like, I feel like I'm in a swimming pool. I guess I kept going on and on about how I felt like I was in a swimming pool. It eventually calmed down and then I went to sleep. Honestly, you feel the effects of an edible for like at least like a week after, like at least. And I mean, I think it stays detectable in your system for I think a month. But I mean, for the rest of the, you know, the time after that, like my stomach was just like very sensitive. I had a lot of like acid reflux and just like my stomach just was not having a good time. Being like high from an edible is a very somatic experience and that can be extremely scary to people. You guys are probably all wondering like, what did my bad trip teach me about God? I think that what my bad trip taught me about God was that God is so good. Like, I know that's kind of like weird to like say like after all of this, but it's kind of like this experience reminded me like how important it was to consume good things. I remember thinking of that like sentence when I was in mass one time. It was like, make sure that you like consume good things. I've kind of realized that that's like a mantra that like we really, really need in 2021 because I realized from this experience with this bad trip, I realized how negative my subconscious mind was. And I think that I really kind of needed like a dark night of the soul sort of experience where like I felt disconnected from everything except for myself and my thoughts. I had no idea that like my subconscious mind was dark, like that dark. Like I always knew that it was dark, but I never knew it was like that dark because it's like when you live with OCD, as I mentioned earlier, your subconscious is kind of always like this darkness that you always have to like kind of just deal with. But it's like with the cannabis, with the edibles, it was just like all encompassing and it made me look at it. I couldn't just suppress it. I couldn't just ignore it. I had to look at it. I had to kind of get real with myself and I'm just like, I need to be more conscientious of what I'm consuming, what I'm focusing my energy on. I realized that I had been focusing on a lot of the pain and the injustice of this world. And I guess that's kind of the burden of activism when you kind of get involved with fighting for justice or a cause of some kind. You kind of can hyperfixate on it. What that bad trip taught me was that I really need to kind of try to get back to the basics, consume what's good, and that includes like, you know, consuming, you know, the host. In this case, it's spiritual consumption because I attend virtual mass online. That's like a live stream. If you guys would like to know what like virtual mass I attend, I can leave that in the description box below. And I think that that's also probably why, like, because I've had really bonkers, wild, like, supernatural paranormal stories before. This was not that. This was a very, like, non-supernatural story, but it was still extremely important. I would still say that it's mystical because it was contemplative. Like, it caused me to reflect on, like, deeper truths about the universe and God and stuff, and I realized, like, how small I was, how finite everything is, and how we really should be trying to, you know, keep our treasure, like, in heaven and you know, store it there, because everything here is so finite and limited, including ourselves. I think that it's a very scary thought, but it's also a very sobering thought, and I think that it can help us live better. I hope that this video was enjoyable for you. I want to share my experiences with you guys, and that includes the positive and negative experiences. I'm by no means perfect. I by no means know everything. I still think that recreational cannabis should be legalized. I still think that it can benefit people immensely, but I also think that people should be informed before they use it. People should know what they're getting into, and just to realize that you're not alone. Please feel free to leave your bad trip experiences in the comment section below if you would like. And again, if you would like to watch a more philosophical, theological video about if cannabis is moral to use, I will leave that video that I made in the description box below about if cannabis is morally acceptable in the Catholic Church. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Please consider supporting me on my Patreon account. Thank you so much to my lovely patrons. Your generosity is extremely, extremely inspiring. If you're not comfortable with donating monthly, you can still leave me a one-time donation on my Venmo account. I would appreciate that immensely. It helps the platform keep flourishing and growing and stuff. And if you're not in the financial situation to donate, that's totally okay. You can still support the channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel. And also, please feel free to leave a comment. I would love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I am Cassidy. I am the Hippie Catholic. God bless.